Hello and welcome back to Portugal News in Central Portugal. We've been away for a few weeks now. We've been on summer holidays, mainly because we had a family visiting from the UK. I was going to do a bit of a catch-up video and tell you what we've been up to. The first thing we did was, I think I left you when I'd just finished getting the room downstairs ready and tidying up. And then the following day we went to pick up family from the airport in Lisbon. Now, up until recently, I haven't actually been any further south than Lisbon. So I thought, let's take this opportunity. We've got people visiting, we want to show them around, to go a bit further south than Lisbon because it's a good 2 hours from here to get to Lisbon. So where I wanted to go, which was Setúbal, that's a good 2.5. If you've got traffic, 3 hours away from where we live. So I thought, as we're picking Dave's son Josh up from the airport in Lisbon, it would be a good opportunity to check out Setúbal. Now, I've wanted to go there for a really long time because I've heard that the beaches are amazing and they didn't disappoint. So I'm gonna show you some of the photos of our holiday as I'm chatting about it. So we started off going to Serra da Arrábida, and it was absolutely stunning. I've travelled a lot around Europe, especially when I was younger. I've travelled a lot of the Mediterranean and I've travelled around a lot of the Greek islands. And I found this part of Setúbal to be really similar to like a lot of the Greek islands I visited. So you've got quite rugged cliffs and olive trees going down to like these beautiful white sandy beaches where the sea is just perfectly crystal clear and it reflects the incredibly blue sky. And in the water is a variety of different fish. And all along that coastline, you've got amazing seafood restaurants. So the restaurant we visited was called O Farol, and I'd spent a lot of time before the trip, before the boys were coming, researching where to go. So any trip I've ever been on, I always like research really thoroughly beforehand where I want to go. I want to make the most of every single day. And I'll look at things like Instagram, Facebook, TripAdvisor, and I'll look at reviews. So in Portugal, you've got The Fork for reviews, TripAdvisor for reviews, and Google. So a lot of the time, a lot of reviews for restaurants are on Google. So if you go on Google Maps and look at the restaurant, it'll tell you what the rating is. So this restaurant that we went to called O Farol had a really high rating, and all the pictures and reels were like really Instagram worthy. So I really wanted to go there. So that's where we went, and it ended up being really, really nice, but really pricey. It was quite expensive. We were really smart in what we ordered. So you could order like a big one pot for two people, which came to just over €40. And it had monkfish and prawns in it, and it was like a beautiful fish stock with rice. So it's absolutely delicious, and that would have been enough for four people. So if you wanted to eat cheaply there, you could have, but I think the expectation was that it was about €100 a head. And there was a table sat next to us, and there was about 10 of them. And I think their bill must have come to about €1,000 because they were having like wine and starters and desserts, and they had kids. And I was just thinking, like, some of the bills in that restaurant would have been like very, very high. But we managed to keep ours a little bit lower, being really careful what we ordered. But if you do go to that restaurant, just be aware it's quite pricey, it's quite expensive. But you do get what you pay for. The seafood was definitely fresh. Caught that day, it was delicious. The food was amazing. The service was fantastic, and the main thing was the location. So the view from the restaurant was just absolutely stunning. and it's one of those places that you go to that you're not going to forget about it. It's going to be a really nice memory that you just remember. And what was even cooler was we actually walked down from the car park, or where we were able to park, along the coastline to the restaurant. And we didn't realise that if you eat at that restaurant, there's a buggy that takes you back up to where you park. So all you had to do was show your receipt. So after we'd had like this wonderful lunch, we'd go back to like the main square, and you'd show your receipt to the people with these like sand buggies, and they'd give you a lift back to your car, which was quite cool because it was all uphill on the way back. So that was a really nice part of eating at that restaurant as well, that you got like a free buggy ride. And it definitely like made us feel like we were all on holiday. It was the first day of the holiday. It was absolute paradise where we were. The scenery was the best. It was just stunning, and the food was amazing. So it was a really good start to the holiday. And then we didn't want to head back home without actually going to the beach. And the beach that I thought would suit us best was Praia da Albarquel. So I'll put some pictures up as I'm describing what we did over the holiday and where we went. But the reason I picked this beach was because there were facilities. So sometimes there'll be beaches, like the beaches by where the restaurant was, there was no facilities. A lot of people were just on like their boats and getting there by boat. But we wanted to go to a beach where there'd be toilets, showers, and some sort of cafe so we could get like cold drinks. So at this particular beach, it was beautiful sand. There was plenty of room. There was stunning views again, and the water wasn't too choppy. So I think I've said in previous videos, like a lot of the beaches on the Silver Coast of Portugal can be quite choppy, but there are some that are sheltered. And I think in a previous video, I took you to São Martinho de Porto, which is one of my favourite beaches, and it's a cove, so you don't have those choppy waves. And at this particular beach that we went to on the first day of our holiday, it wasn't choppy. It was just really nice water, like really nice sort of relaxed waves. It wasn't too busy. It's a real mix of people as well. There was a lot of Brazilian people on holiday, there was a lot of Portuguese people on holiday, and then a lot of sort of British and American, either immigrants or people here on holiday. So there was a real mix of people there as well, which is always nice. And yeah, so that was like the first day. I did all the driving on the holiday, so it was a lot of driving, but I was quite excited about the whole holiday and all the places that we were going, so I was happy to drive. So it was a good 3 hours there, and then it was a good 3 hours back. So after all that fun and all that excitement and 6 hours of driving, by the time we got back here to Espinhal, I was quite tired. But it was a really fantastic first day of the holiday. So the next day, we decided to stay quite close to home. So on the second day of the holiday, the following day, we had a lie-in because we were quite tired from that first day. So we slept until about lunchtime, and then we headed to Lousã. So where we are in Espinhal, you have Penella, and then the next town is Miranda de Corvo, and then the town after that is Lousã. And Lousã is quite affluent. It's quite there's a mix of houses, but there are some like really nice big houses there. There's mansions there for over €1 million, and there's like quite affluent people there. There's vineyards. There's quite historically well-off families in Lousã. So I really like Lousã. It's where I wanted to move to when we moved here, but we couldn't quite afford Lousã, and actually a doer upper, which is what we could afford, we could buy a house that needed a complete renovation in Esbinial in quite a nice area. Like where our house is it's a stunning, beautiful place to live. But if we bought this sort of house in Lousã, it would be in quite a grotty, suburban-y sort of area of Lousã. If you want to live in the nice bits of Lousã, it's more expensive. And actually, we're completely priced out of Lousã now. So while our house has gone up in value, just recently we've had it valued, and it's actually gone up 3 times what we paid for it. But I looked at properties in Lousã and they've gone up 5 times in value. And I think a big part of that is to do with the Metro bus, which has just recently opened, which is a direct link to Coimbra, the city. It's a quick travel link to the city. So Lousã is quite a desirable area. I really like it. And somewhere I like to go in Lousã is a public swimming pool, and it's a really beautiful swimming pool. It's more like being at a really nice hotel. So you've got beautifully kept lawns, grass to sunbathe on, all like really good quality facilities, showers, changing rooms. And the swimming pool is massive. It's like a really big swimming pool. So if you want to do lengths, if you actually want to work out. So Dave's son, Josh, is really good at swimming, and he likes to exercise. So he was able to do lengths in the swimming pool. Swimming pool is called Piscina de Parque Carlos Reis. I'm not sure what the cafe is called, but the cafe is literally, I think it's called Cafe Park, and it's literally right next to the swimming pool. And they do really good food there. So the last time Josh was here, we ate there, but it was closed this time. So we went to a really nice pasteleria, which was just down the road, and we had really nice Portuguese pastries. So I just had a cafe and a pastel de nata. That was enough for me. But Dave and the boys, they had quite a lot of pastries and galaus. So they like a big milky coffee. I just like a little cafe, which is like a shot of espresso. So then we spent the afternoon in the swimming pool. Sort of later on, sort of 5 o'clock, we went to Lousã Castle, which I've taken you along there in a previous video, but this time the Praia Fluvial was open, which is called Praia Fluvial de Nossa Senhora de Piedade. Yeah, that's it. Praia Fluvial de Nossa Senhora de Piedade. So the Praia Fluvial River Beach is right by Lousã Castle, and I've shown you all of this in previous videos. It was really nice. The water is cold, and we went to our river beach in Lucania the other day to swim, and the water is cold. So that's just something to be aware of. Like the swimming pool in Lousã, the water was perfect, but the water in the river beaches is still cold, even though we've had like temperatures in the 40s. So the majority of the time now, the temperatures are in like the high 30s, which is hot. I couldn't film this video today outside because my phone would overheat in like a few seconds and it wouldn't film. So I had to film the welcome back video inside because I can't actually film outside at the moment because it's just too hot. And I've actually not been going outside that much. I've been staying in with the fan on, not wearing a huge amount of clothes because it's just too hot. It's absolutely boiling. So when we went to Lasagna the other day, which is our river beach, which is in walking distance of our house, the water is cold. So you sunbathe for a few minutes, and then you get in the water, you get really cold, and then you come out again and you sunbathe and you get back in the water, and you just sort of repeat. And it's lovely, but it's just something to be aware of, that the river beaches, the one in Lousã anyway, and the one here, the water for me anyway is cold. But it can be quite refreshing when the temperatures are as hot as they are. So we went to the river beach in Lousã, and then we went to the garden centre that I've also filmed in a previous video. Josh bought Dave some flowers, which are doing really well, and we're going to put them in hanging baskets. We had a few like relaxed days at home. So we spent a lot of time with the dogs. So Josh gets on really well with all the dogs, and they just get absolutely spoiled rotten. Especially Bran, our biggest dog. Josh and Bran have got like this unique, special bond where they're besties. They're like best friends. We did spend quite a lot of time just at home at the house, using the pool outside, sunbathing, and playing with the dogs, watching films if it was just too hot to be outside. And we had quite a few barbecues again. Here we had people around for a barbecue. So we spent a lot of time at home as well. And then another nice thing we did on the holiday was we went to the spa. But it wasn't the spa that I've shown you in a previous vlog. So I've taken you to the Design Hotel, which is a really nice 4-star hotel in Penella, which is closest to us. But if you go further towards Coimbra, you come across a town called Condeixa, and there is an amazing hotel there. It's called Coimbra Hotel de Passo. So Coimbra it's like a Roman ruins, and Condeixa is a really beautiful historic. Not sure if it's a city or a town. I think it's a town, but Coimbra is absolutely beautiful. I've not actually done a vlog about Coimbra, so it might be worth showing you the Roman ruins, but also there's a beautiful waterfall walk, similar to our waterfall walk in Coimbra and in Condeixa. So the Coimbra Hotel is in Condeixa, and it's a really nice 4-star hotel, and they have a beautiful spa. And you can use the spa and all the really nice facilities. There's a gym there as well, and you can use all those facilities for just €8. So if you've got guests coming to visit, especially if you don't have your own pool as well. So our pool was really cheap. It was about €350 when we bought it from Leroy Merlin. But especially if you didn't have a pool, it'd be really nice to go along to like one of these hotels, and you can pay to use their facilities. So if you wanted to use the inside pool, the spa, the steam room, the sauna, the jacuzzi, the gym, that's €8. If you wanted to also use the pool that's outside, and have lunch and drinks, then that's €20. So those are two like really nice things to do if you had like people coming to visit. So we just did the spa, the inside spa, but it was beautiful because all the doors were open. There's a really nice pool. Because Dave was quite tired from all the hard building work he's been doing, so Dave was just sat in the jacuzzi. I really enjoy the sauna, and there's sun lounges in the spa, so you can just sit there and relax. Like there's always a receptionist there, so you can say if you want the music on or if you'd rather it was just quiet. And then the receptionist is also there to give massages. So if you wanted a massage, you can have a massage. And then the gym is like fairly basic. There's the running machine. There's all the different machines. And then there's weights. So if you wanted to do weight training. And then also there's a really nice bar and an outside area to sit and have a cup of tea or a drink. So we just had some I think we just had some tea. But yeah, Josh had a cocktail, and he said that the cocktails were really nice. So yeah, Coninbriga Hotel, I would definitely highly recommend. We had a really nice day there, and we had a few more days of just relaxing around here. The boys went to the river beach here, and that was good because we didn't have to drive them, so they can just walk to the river beach from here. And then it was Josh's birthday. So we'd heard about this restaurant in central Portugal for a while, and it's called the Lagar, or the Brits here, or the Americans call it the Olive Press. And everyone's raved about this restaurant the whole time we've been in central Portugal, which is like 6 years now. And we've never been. And Dave and I went a little while ago when we like saved up a bit of money, and we had the most amazing meal. And the setting as well, like the actual restaurant itself, is so beautiful. So we went to the Lagar for Josh's birthday meal, and it really didn't disappoint. The service was fantastic. They're experts in wine, so I think they know quite a lot about wine. And Josh enjoyed quite a few glasses of wine and a few cocktails, I think. Dave and I we're not drinking, so Dave had like Superbock 00, which is alcohol-free Superbock, and I was just drinking tea. And yeah, the food was just really good quality food. Fantastic steak. It comes out on a big hot plate, and it's on fire. um, and basically, what it means is you can cook the steak to how you'd like it. So it obviously comes out rare, and then the longer you leave it on the hot plate, the more cooked it becomes. So I like my steak quite rare, so I take it off the hot plate almost immediately. But yeah, really beautiful cheeses, which like we haven't been eating dairy or any sort of processed food at all. So we pushed the boat out a little bit for Josh's birthday, and we had a really lovely meal at the Lagar. And for pudding, they brought out a birthday cake for Josh, and everyone in the restaurant sang happy birthday, which I don't know if he was like really happy or like a little bit embarrassed, because I think he's 33 now. So yeah, but it just shows like Portuguese people, they're just so lovely. So that was a wonderful evening, and we had a thoroughly lovely time. And then we did a trip to Porto, and that has to be like by far my favorite day of the holiday. So I did all the driving again, and it's basically because Dave really needed to rest as much as possible on this holiday because he's been working really hard building. So I was quite happy to do all the driving. So I drove us to Porto, and obviously I'd researched the whole day before we went and made sure that I knew like all the good places and how to get there the best, quickest, most efficient way from each place. So we started off our day in Porto at a brunch restaurant. Dave and I have been there before, years ago now, and it's called Zenith Brunch. And the food is absolutely fantastic. They do, your open sandwiches with poached eggs and smoked salmon. So we started the day with brunch at Zenith, and I just highly recommend it. It's really good food, and there's a really nice vibe there. Everyone's really happy. It's quite young people having a good time. And then from there, we then went on to the Mercado, the market, and we walked. So the market is well, it's obviously old, but the renovation of the market is relatively new. So it's all been done up beautifully. It's very modern, and they sell all sorts of Portuguese delights, from cheese to cured meats to bacalhau to fresh flowers, dried flowers, olives, herbs and spices. You can get oysters. There's bars, so you can get wine and champagne, bread, pastries. Oh, and when we went, there was an even bigger market upstairs. So we didn't realize, but upstairs there's all restaurants, and they're quite high end restaurants. And there were other vendors selling handmade arts and crafts, so jewelry, printed t-shirts, tote bags, and just it was just lovely. And there was an art installation there, which I thought was really lovely. People that weren't artists, people in the community coming together and creating clay models of buildings in Porto, and they'd all come together to create the city of Porto in clay. So that was really nice, and we had a really lovely time just at the market. So we'd already had a fantastic brunch. Then we went to the market, which was fantastic. After that, we walked to the train station. So the train station in Porto is worth seeing for the azulejo tiles on the entrance to the train station, and they depict scenes throughout history that are relevant and significant to the Portuguese. So it's definitely something that's worth seeing. And then we crossed a really tall iron bridge over to the other side. So from Porto over to the other side of the river, and it's quite something just to cross that bridge. And once we'd crossed the bridge, we went to a really nice cocktail bar. So I had a mocktail. So it was a really hot day for being in a city. It was definitely high 30s, low 40s. And we used the time, once we'd crossed over the bridge, the Louis I bridge, over the Douro to the Jardim de Moro area. And we were in this cocktail bar. We just used the time to sort of cool down, drink plenty of water as well, and reapply suntan lotion because it was just so hot. Anyway, once we'd taken in the view, taken loads of photographs, we headed down on the opposite side. So you're looking over towards Porto, and on this side it's Villanova de Gaia. So you're walking down Villanova de Gaia towards the Douro River, and it's all like cobbled streets, and there's some amazing buildings. There's some like newly renovated buildings, but there's also like dilapidated buildings. There's ruins in what can only be described as like the most prime location in possibly the coolest city in Europe. And it just still baffles me that there are ruins in those areas. It just doesn't make any sense for me, because the amount of money you could make, not that it's about this terrible thing about people making money from Airbnb and rent in these places, but then at the same time there's empty buildings. It doesn't make any sense to me. If anyone knows any more about that, please comment, because it's always something that puzzles me, that Portugal has a housing crisis and yet there's a huge amount of empty houses. I've been told that a lot of it is that people don't actually know who owns these houses, or they're owned by several different people that can't agree. But it's a contentious issue. And if you have any opinions on it, please leave those in the comments, because it's something that I'd like to understand more. I think, especially as an immigrant living here, it's important to understand all these things that are going on in Portugal, that it's important to have a very clear understanding of why there's a housing crisis, why prices of Airbnbs and rentals have shot up in Porto and Lisbon. And yet, when we were in one of the coolest areas of Porto, there were empty houses that were dilapidating. They were crumbling to the ground, and that didn't make any sense to me. Anyway, it was regardless. It's the most stunning, energetic, vibrant place. I highly recommend where we went to in Porto. We crossed over the top of the Louis I Bridge where the trams and trains are running, and then crossing back towards Porto, we went on the lower bridge, and because it was such a hot day, people were actually jumping. These young Portuguese teenage boys were jumping from the bridge into the Douro River, and there was just loads of people gathered around watching. And it was amazing because there was quite a current, and they were really good swimmers. It was amazing to see. And then after we crossed over the bridge back to Porto, we were in the Ribeira section, which is the only part of Porto I hadn't explored yet. And I said to Josh and Dave, I said, if we go anywhere in Porto today, I want to go to the Ribeira section because I've not been. And that's the part right on the Douro River. And Josh even jumped into the Douro River and had a swim in the river, which was amazing. And lots of people were doing it. People were just in this incredibly vibrant, touristy area, loads of like really nice restaurants, people busking. There was a market, people were selling beautiful Portuguese products, and then people were just jumping in the river and having a swim. It was absolutely fantastic. If you've never been there, just make sure you go, because it's such a cool place to go. And that was sort of like one of the last places that we went to in Porto before sort of heading back to the car from where we live in Espinhal. It's an hour and 50 minutes. So I was like aware that I had to do the drive back while we walked back, which was uphill, to a place called Base, which is by the Porto Clock Tower. And it's a very cool cocktail bar above a shopping mall, and it's all grass and olive trees, and in the middle there's a cocktail bar. So I think Josh and Dolly had mojitos, and we just had sparkling water. Very boring now, but much healthier for it. Yeah, so we finished the day off in Porto at Base, which is quite a cool, trendy place. The boys had cocktails, and we just rehydrated because it was such a hot day. And then we head back. We headed back to the car park, which was a Via Verde car park. So our car has a Via Verde tag inside it. So when you go through any of the tolls, it's all your tolls are paid automatically through your bank account. And there's also car parks that are Via Verde. You can park there as normal and just pay cash. But if you've got the Via Verde, quite often it's cheaper and it goes automatically out of your bank account. So that makes life a lot easier than having to pay and find cash or a cash point. So the car park we stayed in was a Via Verde car park, and I'll put a link to all of the things that I've described so far around the video and also in the description. So Porto was a fantastic day, but after Porto we were quite tired. Like we had a few days at home, relaxing again with the dogs, and then we checked out Aveiro. Now, Dave and I love Aveiro. We've been to Aveiro a few times and it's quite a romantic place. It's called the Venice of Portugal, but it doesn't really do it either of the places justice because they're not the same, other than they have these kind of like gondolas, but they're not really gondolas. But Aveiro is unique and beautiful in its own right, and yeah, there's just fantastic shops, beautiful Art Nouveau architecture. It's a city that made wealth from farming salt, I believe. And that's the history of the gondolas or these boats that they have. They were used for farming salt. So Dave and I had done Aveiro several times, and Josh and Dolly didn't seem too fussed about checking out Aveiro itself. It seemed a bit touristy on the day that we went. So I said, shall we check out Costa Nova, which is something that people keep recommending to me, and I've never been. And it's quite iconic, and it's a beach, and there's these houses, these wooden houses that are painted in stripes. So red and white stripes, blue and white stripes, yellow and white stripes. And they've become quite iconic, and they're very Instagrammable. They're in lots of reels. And if you're on Pinterest, it's something that you come across a lot. But I wasn't like overwhelmed or charmed necessarily by Costa Nova. It was very expensive. The beaches were quite difficult to get to. We weren't even allowed to swim in the beach in Costa Nova. The lifeguard said, no, you can put your feet in the water, but you can't swim. It's too dangerous today. And also there wasn't like, like a cheap cafe to just go and buy a bottle of water. They were all like beach clubs, and you had to pay like a premium to even sit there. And I found it a little bit like not welcoming, and a bit elitist. I don't know if that's the right word, but everyone raved about Costa Nova on all the Facebook pages that I followed. And I was expecting it to be really charming, and I found it quite underwhelming. So we didn't give up. We travelled over to the other side, which is called Praia da Barra, and you've got the Aveiro lighthouse there, and that's where everybody had gone. So there weren't really anybody at these really expensive private beach clubs in Costa Nova. Everybody was in Praia da Barra, because one, you could swim in the sea there because it was like a cove, so it was protected, so the waters weren't too choppy. The water was freezing. So the further north you go in Portugal, the colder the water is, and then obviously the further south you go, the warmer the water is. So it was really cold, but I found Praia da Barra to be really quaint and very nostalgic, which was basically what I'd heard about Costa Nova. The lighthouse was quite stunning, and if you like Wes Anderson films and that sort of aesthetic, it was really picturesque and beautiful and quirky, and it was just all normal Portuguese people there enjoying their holidays. And there was an affordable cafe with a toilet, and we all had an ice cream, and it was really nice. So I would actually rate Praia da Barra much higher than Costa Nova from my experience on that day. Maybe it was a bad day to go, but that was like our experience of Aveiro. But we love Aveiro. We think Aveiro's amazing. So we also went to Nazaré. Now I've been to Nazaré. I think Dave and I have been to Nazaré a few times. We've done the bit of Nazaré where you've got the famous cliff where you watch the giant waves and there's competitions. So we've been there. We've been to the beach to the right of the giant cliff, but we hadn't been to the massive beach on the left. And everybody keeps talking about it, and everybody keeps saying, "Oh, there's fantastic restaurants. You really need to go." So I said to Josh, "Do you want to go to Nazaré?" And he was like, "Oh, do you think we could go surfing? Do you think we could ride the waves?" And I said, "No." Also, we've only got a lilo, but luckily on that day it wasn't too choppy. I think we were able to get in the water. I can't remember now, actually. I remember we were there and that freak weather incident happened where that big rolling cloud came in and the weather just changed, like from hot summer to winter for 1 minute and then went back to hot summer. It was a really strange phenomenon that happened while we were in Nazaré. So I'll put links to newspaper clips from that because that was really weird and surreal. But yeah, it was really, really hot in Nazaré, and parking was an absolute nightmare. So that's something to bear in mind. But I get, again, it's the time of year. It was so busy. My favourite bit about being in Nazaré was seeing these local kids. There was adults as well, but they were all dressed up in traditional Portuguese costume for Nazaré. It was like a local folk procession with women wearing, it's a traditional skirt that's called the Seven Skirts. Seta Seish, the Seven Skirts. And the tale behind the Seven Skirts is that one, it was to keep the women warm while they were waiting for the men to come back from fishing, but also they would count the waves with each layer of the skirt, and that's how they would know how long the time had passed until their husbands or sons would be coming back from fishing. But yeah, the costumes. I obviously studied fashion. I have an interest in costume, and it was something to see. And you had women and really little children, these little girls wearing the traditional costume, and they looked lovely and they were really proud. And the men were all in checks and waistcoats, and they had these traditional hats with a pom pom on it. And they were playing like terracotta pots. They were hitting terracotta pots, and they were playing the accordion. So that was something really special and much better than any of the sort of touristy things that were on offer there. So that was really good when we visited Nazaré. And then the only other thing we did before the boys went back, before we drove them back to Lisbon, was we had one more day at not a river beach, Piscina Descoberta de Quinta da Paiva in Miranda de Corvo. And I probably pronounced that wrong, but it's right next to the Park Hotel, which is a 4-star hotel in Miranda de Corvo. And this public swimming pool is right next to it, and it's really, really, really nice. It's lovely. It's got different pools, so there's like shallow pools for kids. There's a much deeper pool for adults. There's plenty. there's plenty of lawn area, there's gardens, there's olive trees for shade. They've got parasols, they've got sunbathing lounges. There's a really nice cafe. The changing rooms are really big and they've got lots of facilities. And it's quite upmarket. It's all been designed with the schist stone, which is like slate. And you've got the Shanfana Museum there as well. And there's a ecological park with all the animals that are in the area. So like a zoo, but a conscious preservation zoo for the different types of animals and species in the area. So it's a really, really nice place. And it was the last day before the boys went, we went there swimming and sunbathing. And again, it was in the low 40s. So it was the best thing to do when the weather is as hot as it is to be by water. And I think, yes, go to a city for sure, like Porto and Lisbon, they're amazing. Aveiro's fantastic. And there's so many other wonderful places like Setúbal, if I'm pronouncing that right. But I think when the weather's as hot, as it is now, the best thing you can do is just sunbathe in the shade, just like sleep or relax in the shade, and then get into cool water and just relax if you're on holiday here. And drink plenty of water. It's so important to drink plenty of water. So yeah, the last day was at the swimming pool in Miranda de Corvo, and it was just, again, really lovely, nice people, everyone having a really good time, kids being kids. And then we drove the boys back to the airport the next day. And it was really sad to see them go. And then, obviously, like the next day, all the dogs were like, absolutely gutted. Like, where have they gone? Like, really missing them. So so that was our holiday. And then we needed like a little bit of a holiday to recover from the holiday, because the holiday had been so busy. It'd been just like jam packed. We'd done something like every day almost. It had been busy. Even if we stayed at home, we'd have people around for a barbecue. So it was busy, busy, busy. So after the holiday, we needed a break. And and then we've just been doing like an awful lot of sorting around the house. The vegetable garden is a mess again. Um, I'll show you that in the next video. And everything else. Everything is requiring a huge amount of maintenance again because of the heat. Um, so I watch Frankie off grid with Carissa and Yuan, and they've said a few times the best thing about Portugal is the weather, and the worst thing about Portugal is the weather. And that is so true. It's amazing to have like high 30s, low 40s. It's fantastic, and to have months of it. But then, everything needs watering a lot. There have been some terrible fires now in the north of Portugal, and there were last year as well for my birthday. It was so it would have been in September. There were terrible fires in the north of Portugal. So whilst it's absolutely beautiful and a stunning place to come on holiday, it's extreme. The weather is extreme. And we found that this winter as well, it was a very, very harsh winter. So yeah, the weather has pros and cons. And for me at the moment, I'm so lucky. I don't have any work at the moment other than cleaning a few Airbnbs, and I'm altering people's clothes for them. And if people want like cakes. I've been decorating cakes, but these are all sort of like bits and bobs I've been doing. Dave is working 5 days a week in 40 degree, well, it was 41 degrees yesterday, and he said he burnt his bum on a roof. So he burnt his bum on the tiles of a roof. So I've been telling him to wear suntan lotion, wear a hat, take plenty of water. But I don't envy Dave doing building work in this heat. He's a bit of a hero. Um, so yeah, I have been very slow to get back to doing stuff on the house, um, just because it's so hot. But you know, if Dave can go to work, then I need to pull my finger out and get back to work here, really, which is what I'm going to do for the next video. I'll definitely make some more progress on the house. So hopefully I didn't ramble on too much about our summer holiday, but I thought it was important to do a catching up video so you knew what we'd been up to. I did do a few posts about it on our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and social media pages. I try and keep them up to date even if I've not got round to doing a video. I try and keep you guys up to date with what we're up to. So if you don't want to miss next week's video, please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, especially if you've got any questions, or if you can answer any of my questions in the comments. I'd really appreciate that. And Dave, hopefully Dave might be in the next video. We'll see you at 9 a.m. on Sunday. Take care. Bye.